Today's Ghost Island has a particularly warm atmosphere. Because almost half of the powerful members of the Kaido pirate group have gathered on the Island of Ghosts. The island is full of countless food and wine that the common people of Wano Kuni could not imagine. The people of Kaido pirates ate meat and drank, making all the noise. They all know that today there will be a bold guy on the Island of Ghosts. Ha ha ha, is that guy too crazy? How dare you come to see Boss Kaido alone, and I heard that Boss Kaido's phone has been hung up. GG, who would say no? I guess he can't even get in Wano Kuni. We didn't send anyone to pick him up. The cliffs and waterfalls around Wano Kuni are really difficult for ordinary people to get in without special means. In the top and second row of the crowd, the three plagues are sitting, and the top place is naturally Kaido. Jack the Drow said at this time, Joker won't really not be able to get in Wano Kuni, right? I was ready to teach him early. Jhin turned his head and looked at Kaido at the top. Would you like me to go out and take a look? The fort guards at the door did not hear that Joker had entered. Kaido didn't speak. He had already drunk dozens of large bowls of wine, and he was already a little drunk and unconscious at this time. Plague Quinn pinched both mustaches and smiled yinly. Don't worry about this. Joker is Shicibukai after all. If you can't even get in Wano Kuni, then we don't worry about discussing business with him. Hearing Quinn's words, Jack stopped talking, just drank heavily, his arm muscles bulged, as if to show that he was ready to teach Dover, not just empty words. Hey, brother Jack. Next to Jack, a man with a sharp-mouthed monkey cheek leaned over and jokingly said, I just heard you say that that person is a Shicibukai, and brother Jack is going to teach him. It's better to leave such trivial matters to the younger me. I also want to see what strength Shicibukai is. Jack gave him a glance and slapped him away. Go away, that bastard Joker can only be taught by lousy. At the same time, the people of Kaido pirates didn't know the object they were talking about, they didn't know when, standing high above their heads. Dover stood above the clouds, his eyes indifferent, watching the vicious big pirates gathered on the ghost island below. The corners of his mouth gradually evoked a sneer. Kaido, is this? You want to give him a slap in the face? But that's good. Dover also wants to leave a deep impression on the other side. Dover's figure began to slowly decline, and an indescribable hockey wave gradually rippled from him. The weird and dark clouds all over him were torn to pieces like the remnants of the wind. Boom! In the void, there seems to be some kind of thunder flashing. What's going on? On the Island of Ghosts, the Kaido pirates who were still caring, raised their heads in surprise and looked at the sky that suddenly became unpredictable, not knowing what happened. The dark clouds are gone, but there was thunder just now, this damn. Someone yelled, and the weather was strange enough. However, the next moment, his person could no longer speak, because he felt a pressure that almost suffocated him, suddenly falling on him. Not only him, but everyone on the Island of Ghosts felt this indescribable tremendous pressure at the same moment. Asshole! Is there someone on it? At this moment, under this intense pressure, someone was already unable to hold on to lie on the ground, and the only person who could still stare at the pressure to speak was the level of the three disasters. This is caused by hockey. Jhin stood up abruptly, no longer the calmness of the past. His eyes were staring at the sky, and his voice became a little uncertainly dry. Could it be? 4 Emperor's red-haired shanks are here. Hockey alone can do this. Except for the red hair of the 4 Emperors, Jhin couldn't think of anyone else. As soon as he said this, Jack, who was about to yell at him just now, closed his mouth immediately. 4 Emperors' red hair? It is the youngest 4 Emperors that has emerged in the New World in recent years. It is extremely powerful. It claims to have the world's strongest conqueror's hockey. It is an existence that even the boss of Kaido is unwilling to provoke easily. Quinn also stood up at this time. The smoke in his mouth had already turned into fly ash under the pressure. Quinn's expression has never been dignified and gloomy. I'm afraid. Not the red-haired shanks. His voice became more dull, with endless surprises. It's impossible for a person of the level of red hair to come to Wano Kuni without giving notice, otherwise, it is going to fight the boss Kaido. Jhin nodded. Qiwuhai was not fake because of this, and the red-haired wouldn't make the kind of outrageous behavior that came without notice. Who the hell is it? Jack asked quickly. Quinn's face was weirdly distorted and looked extremely ugly. He vaguely saw the stalwart figure above the sky. Wano-kuni, who will come today, you should all know. The words came out. There was dead silence on the court. After a long time, Jack forced a smile and said, "No. Impossible. Brother Quinn, you must be joking. How could he have such a haki?" However, Jhin on the side suddenly said, "It's Joker. There is no doubt that the man in the sky is Joker." As a pterodactyl, Jhin has better eyesight than Quinn, and he has recognized Dover. At the moment when Jin's voice fell, a magnificent and majestic voice suddenly descended on the entire Ghost Island. "Kaido, I'm here. That's how you received your business partner." Accompanied by that magnificent voice, infinite thunder was exploded in the void, and the pressure on everyone at the same time suddenly increased several times. That high-altitude figure like a god, isn't Dover, who is it? Jack sat down on the ground, his big copper bell eyes were almost torn apart, and the shock in his heart was as turbulent as the river was overwhelmed. No one can show how horrified Jack is at this time. Originally, he was ready to teach Dover a lesson. But now, he just glanced at Dover, and he could barely bear the terrifying and frightening haki that radiated from him. Is this really a Joker? No. Impossible. He is just a Shichibukai. How can he have such a haki? Jack couldn't believe it. Such a haki made him even think that even the boss of Kaido may not be comparable. And at this moment, Kaido, who had just become drunk because of too much alcohol, was finally awakened by Dover's voice. When Kaido opened his eyes, he suddenly found that most of his men had fainted, and those who were not fainted were lying on the ground and unable to move. What's more, even Jack the Drow, one of his big billboards, sat on the ground. Asshole. In an instant, Kaido's drunkenness disappeared without a trace. He stood up abruptly, a violent and brutal breath exploding from him. Boom. Two powerful hakis came into contact with each other. And at the moment of contact, it seems that even the world has lost its color in an instant. This is the collision of conquerors' haki. This is a confrontation between kings. Kaido stared hard, Dover in the sky. At first, he thought this haki was released by the red-haired Shanks, and he was shocked. But now, when he saw Dover's face clearly, the shock in his heart not only did not diminish, but became more intense. Joker. It turned out to be Joker. Kaido never expected that the man who released such a huge conquerors was actually a Joker. No wonder, Joker dared to hang up the call of Kaido, the beast. No wonder, Joker dared to threaten him and try to obtain Wanakuna's seastone craft. No wonder, Joker dared to come to his ghost island alone. It turned out that his human strength did not know when it grew to such a point. Joker, you really surprised me. A gloomy voice came from Kaido's mouth, and the muscles of his cheeks were condensed like iron body. But, lousy as Kaido of beasts, although Dover's strength greatly exceeded Kaido's expectations, with Kaido's consistent and arrogant temperament, how can he tolerate a Shichibukai and run wild in his turf? Even if this Shichibukai is an important target of his business cooperation, he also wants the other party to know that his beast Kaido is the emperor of the sea who must never offend. Rumble. The earth seems to be cracking. Kaido's conqueror's haki swelled several levels in an instant, and it was vaguely about to exceed the level of conquerors released by Dover at this time. Jack, sitting on the ground, was overjoyed and calmed down. How did you just give birth? Kaido boss haki is not as good as that guy's idea? Seeing that the boss of Kaido was about to suppress the opponent's haki, Jack's fierce eyes flashed with cruelty and pleasure. He hopes that Kaido boss can teach that guy a good lesson and save the face he just fell down because of a momentary loss. Above the sky, Dover stood with his hand in his hand, and the expression on his face was so indifferent and lofty from beginning to end. His indifferent eyes met Kaido's violent eyes. The magnificent conqueror's haki, surging around him, also confronted Kaido's violent conqueror's haki. The boulders on the ground broke apart, and the waves in the surrounding inland sea were surging. Kaido's haki is getting stronger and stronger, and it seems to be overpowering Dover at any time. Suddenly, Dover's eyes narrowed slightly. In silence, Conqueror's haki on Dover reached an incredible level. That level is indescribable, indescribable. All I knew was that the sky was twisted strangely, and the sea was spinning like a spinning top. The entire Ghost Island seems to be broken. Kaido's original violent and arrogant expression suddenly changed, and his eyes suddenly opened to the largest extent. Although he is among the powerhouses of the Four Emperors level, Conqueror's is not the strongest, and his strongest place is not Conqueror's. However, the Conquerors of the Joker guy is too terrifying. Kaido can be sure that the Conquerors released by Joker at this time is definitely not under the red-haired shanks of the newly promoted Four Emperors he has ever met. And under the incredible pressure of Dover's Conquerors, Kaido's Conquerors was completely suppressed in a blink of an eye, and soon only the Ghost Island was left in the covered area. Dead. Except for the turbulent waves around, there is only complete silence left in this world. The powerful and unmatched Four Emperors, Kaido, the legendary single-dest beast, clearly fell to Dover in the Conqueror's duel. Jack only felt that his throat was about to smoke, he couldn't help swallowing, and lowered his head as if he could barely control himself. He did not dare to look at the Joker in the sky again. The ferocity and pleasure in his eyes just now, there was only a boundless panic left at this time. As for Jhin and Quinn beside Jack, their expressions were condensed to the extreme. In the Conqueror's duel, it was the first time that they had met the boss of Kaido to such a degree. In addition, there is one person on the Island of Ghosts, because standing behind Kaido, he didn't fainted or couldn't move. He wears a hideous Prajna evil ghost mask on his face, tall but with a feminine grace, his eyes hidden under the Prajna mask, staring blankly at the sky. The stalwart and dazzling figure of the man is a little dazed. To be able to force his father to such a level on Conquerors, even Kozuki Oden, whom he admires, can't do it, right? The sea is roaring. The sky is furious. The entire Ghost Island is shaking violently. There is no doubt that once there is no protection from Kaido Conquerors, the Ghost Island will be shattered by Dover's Conquerors in an instant. Kaido's face was as gloomy and full of anger as it was before a big storm. On the one hand, he was extremely shocked by the intensity of Dover's Conquerors. On the one hand, because of the man-made devil fruit that Dover mentioned earlier, and the seastone business, he had scruples in his heart. Otherwise, according to Kaido's temperament, in the face of Dover's domineering attitude, even if he does not want the Island of Ghosts, he has to become a dragon and fight Dover. But even if he was scrupulous, Kaido couldn't really swallow his voice. Because he is Beizung Kaido, the Four Emperors above the countless pirates in the New World. Of course, more importantly, although he was at a disadvantage in the Conqueror's competition with Dover. However, Kaido does not believe that Dover's comprehensive strength can really match himself. He must let Joker understand that even if Joker's strength has gained some incredible growth, it cannot be his opponent of Kaido. Joker. Kaido spoke. A powerful aura that only Four Emperors class possesses, rises from him. That's not Conqueror's haki, it's just momentum. That is the aura that only the strong man standing at the top of the world can unconsciously exude when he is absolutely serious. At the same time this momentum rose, Kaido's Conquerors retracted. Above the sky, Dover's expression was still indifferent, but his eyebrows were lightly raised. He could tell that Kaido was serious. Kaido's next blow is bound to be earth-shattering, and it is absolutely impossible for non-Four Emperors level powerhouses to take it. In Dover's heart, there was also a surging. How strong are Four Emperors? He really wants to try it. So Dover also took back the Conquerors that was about to crush the Ghost Island. Instead, an aura that is no weaker than Kaido, a purely strong person, will fill the entire sky. Although the collision between Conquerors has disappeared, the atmosphere of this world is more depressing and heavier. All the hearts seem to be crushed by a great mountain, almost unable to breathe. This kind of situation, even if it is the three plagues, cannot be avoided. The muscles of Jhin and Quinn were tense, and their eyes were fixed, staring at the match between their old Yamato man. The situation has developed to this point, which they did not expect at all. The strength of Joker's conquerors and Joker far exceeds their imagination. Even though they are the strongest two under Kaido, all they can do at this time is to watch the battle. Because at this time, in this world, apart from those two people, no one is qualified to intervene. As for Jack, who was sitting on the ground, the cold sweat all over his body was falling straight down. It's the first time Jack has seen someone who can show such a serious attitude as the boss of Kaido. At this moment, he deeply felt how stupid he was to teach Joker when he called the device before. Although Jack is still unbelievable, he also has to admit that the man in the sky is no longer within his reach. That is a monster that only Kaido boss can deal with. Boom! There was a huge roar in the air. Kaido picked up a huge spiked mace in his right hand. Joker, you should have considered the fate of doing this. The muscles on Kaido's face suddenly condensed into iron body. That huge body, criss-crossed muscles are like hills, high and swelling. It is difficult to predict what terrifying and explosive power it contains. I don't know how your haki was cultivated, but... Speaking of this, Kaido's voice suddenly became louder, and it really sounded like thunder, blasting in his ears. Since you are posing as a challenge to lousy business or something, I'll go behind. Lousy now, but I want to squeeze you down. Are you ready, Joker? While Kaido was talking, a burst of ultimate pitch black color, accompanied by purple thunder and lightning, wrapped around the mace in his right hand. And the half of the sky behind Kaido is like a sea raged by a storm. The wind is surging, and the clouds are connected to form a whole piece of gray. It seems that it will collapse at any time. The person wearing the Prajna mask standing behind Kaido shook his whole body suddenly. She is Kaido's daughter Yamato. Because she admires Kozuki Oden, she often likes to call herself a son. Yamato recognized the trick his father was about to use. Thunder 8 trigrams. Yamato has also learned this trick. She knows that the thunderous 8 trigrams made by her father, even the other 4 emperors, have to be cautious. And the man in the air, can he take it? After listening to the discussion between Quinn and Jack, he seems to be just a Shicibukai. Even if you have amazing accomplishments on conquerors, you shouldn't be able to match your father's in terms of hard power? Yamato's beautiful eyes couldn't help looking at Dover with some worry. She felt that this man had a temperament similar to Kozuki Oden, and she didn't want him to be killed by his father. Midair, Dover naturally recognized the Thunder 8 trigrams. In the original book, Kaido beat Luffy, who is known as the 5 Emperors, who opened 4 gears and offered a reward of 1.5 billion with just one blow, and beat him half to death. Thunder 8 trigrams is even more nicknamed by the good guys, a trick to get rid of Luffy King's addiction. It's also time, try that trick, Dover murmured. In the early practice, Dover had developed several powerful moves, alloy wire and puppet wire are just one of them. Those moves, in the battle against Crocodile, CP9 and Enel, Dover hardly used. At this time, it is an excellent opportunity for testing. Seeing Dover lifted up with one hand, an extremely fine thread flew into the sky. Dover responded to Kaido with a faint smile. Buddha Bishao, Kaido, you'd better regard this as an appetizer to start a new era of chaos before we cooperate. Dover's eyes became unpredictable. You were also very interested in that era, Kaido. Kaido didn't expect that Dover would be so calm when facing his roar and the thunderous 8 trigrams he was about to emit, even saying that he would start a new era of chaos? Yamato, behind Kaido, is also a little aphasia. It's this time, are you still talking about jokes? However, facing such a crisis, the man still talked and laughed, but Yamato unconsciously produced a trace of admiration and heartbreak. Ha 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 ha. Kaido suddenly laughed. Interesting, very interesting. Joker, I am really interested in the times you mentioned, but whether this is as simple as an appetizer, depends on whether you can take Laozi's mace. As soon as Kaido's voice fell, he jumped sharply and came to a position equal to Dover. On his right hand, the mace with countless purple electric lights and pitch black colors was slammed at Dover in the next moment. Thunder, Ming, Gossip, Gua, Boom. The moment the mace was swung, the half of the gray sky behind Kaido was also pressed against Dover, as if to crush everything on the opposite side into a child's fan. Not good. Wang Dejiao, Yamato couldn't help covering the red lips under the mask, and his heart throbbed with an unstoppable thump. In her eyes, Dover has only raised his arm so far, and has not done any defensive measures at all. It is impossible to stop the thunder of his father's 8 trigrams. Just as Yamato was about to speak out and let his father be merciful, suddenly a pair of beautiful eyes suddenly widened, revealing an unbelievable color. I saw that on that day, the half of the gray sky that was originally pressed against Dover with Kaido's thunderous 8 trigrams was suddenly blocked by an extremely brilliant red, and could no longer move forward the slightest. It's beautiful, but what's going on? Yamato's beautiful eyes sparkled with infinite brilliance. She stared blankly at the half of the sky where Dover belonged, and she didn't know when all of them turned red. The scene at this time is, on Kaido's side, it condensed into a heavy gray half of the sky. On Dover's side, there was also a half sky condensed together. Hong Hehe was like underground magma. The two pieces of sky with completely different colors and extremely distinct differences collide together, not giving way to each other, and are evenly matched. It looks like heaven was torn apart by some supreme power. Although I don't know what method Dover used to make the half of the sky to which it belongs, turning red, competing with his own old man's celestial phenomena. But Yamato's heart was still tight, because the thunderous 8 trigrams of my old man is not just as simple as causing changes in the celestial phenomena. Thunder, the strongest part of 8 trigrams, lies in the mace. If that man can't stop the old man's mace, then no matter how gorgeous he makes the sky, it doesn't make any sense. How can he resist? Yamato kept his eyes on Dover tightly without blinking. The old man's mace was already about to grab him. Even if the man's haki is extremely tyrannical, but he is slammed into a thundering 8 trigrams in the front, I am afraid he will suffer a lot of injuries, right? Jhin and Quinn on the side are also like Yamato, with tense energy and full attention. They wouldn't be naive to think that Dover was so stupid that he would really endure the thunderous 8 trigrams of Kaido boss, which must have been used just now, a method they did not see through. Could it be? Jhin Shanron remembered that Dover raised his arm before, and pointed his finger towards the sky, and half of the sky turned red, also after that. He hurriedly raised his head and looked at the sky farther away. Immediately, the pupils shrank suddenly. That's, what the hell? I saw that above the high dome, there was a gorgeous red glow, falling at a speed of 647. The speed of Hongxia is extremely fast, and coupled with the extremely slenderness, if Jin's perception is not sharp enough, I am afraid it will be difficult to detect for a while. Is it a line? Baking immediately thought that Joker is a string fruit capable person, and such a thin thing as a thread, but it makes sense. Is it just that the Joker needs to use the line to stop the thunder of Kaido boss 8 trigrams? Jhin couldn't help feeling a little absurd. In midair, Dover looked calm and calmly looked at the mace that was getting closer and closer to him. Coming. Dover Hill raised his head slightly, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. He reached out his hand and grabbed the red glow that descended from the sky. Just as Cinder expected, it was just a thread. But this line is far from being regarded as a general line. Its essence is an alloy wire, and on the basis of the alloy wire, Dover makes it rub against the atmosphere at high speed. The half of the sky that Dover belongs to turned red because of the extremely fast friction between this line and the air. And the power of this line is not only the super high temperature on the surface, but also the rows of sawtooths that are extremely thin at the millimeter level front. These sawtooths make this line have a cutting power beyond imagination. Just try thunder 8 trigrams, be beg, how powerful is yours? The next moment, Dover uttered 3 words, radium ray. Immediately afterwards, the Hongxia in his hand blocked Kaido's terrifying mace with lightning speed. This is the thread? Kaido frowned. He had been curious just now how Dover would resist his thunder 8 trigrams. He imagined that Joker might dodge and use Devil Fruit's awakening ability, but he never expected that he would only use such a small thing. Huh, Joker, you underestimate Lousy too. Kaido was extremely angry and smiled, and the thunderous 8 trigrams in his hand became even more powerful. Kaido has never been a righteous person Kunzi, on the contrary, he is a total villain, a pure, omnipotent, true pirate. In order to kill Kozuki Oden, he kidnapped Oden's son Momonosuke. In the original book, he also wanted to take advantage of the decisive battle between Whitebeard and Marine to sneak attack on Whitebeard's territory. In Kaido's cognition, only victory is absolute, and all means are secondary. And now, he was going to take advantage of Joker's daring to look down upon him, and beat Joker with one blow, to the point that he would shiver as long as he heard the name of his beast Kaido. Finally, when Kaido's mind turned cruel thoughts, under the tense gaze of Yamato's beautiful eyes. Illustration: when Jhin and Quinn almost forgot to breathe, and the rest of the Ghost Island, they only dared to crawl on the ground and couldn't help their faces shaking. Dover's radium hotline finally collided with Kaido's thundering 8 trigrams. At the moment of the collision, a huge wave of indescribability rippled wildly. This wave of volatility spread directly to the entire Wano Kuni, forming a huge hurricane and sweeping it out. The civilians of Wano Kuni all raised their heads in surprise at this moment and looked at the mighty hurricane that swept across the sky. Someone who reacted quickly hurriedly ran home with their heads in their hands, while shouting, "The storm is coming, everyone, run away," at the same moment. Capital of Flowers, General Mansion. The current general of Wano Kuni, Kurozumi, is enjoying singing and dancing. Suddenly, the entire general's mansion shook suddenly. The big snake fell to the ground with a butt, got up angrily, and roared. "What's going on? What's going on? Has there been an earthquake? Ah!" The attendant smiled cautiously and stepped forward. Master General calmed down his anger. It was just a hurricane that hit the general's mansion just now. "Hurricane?" Orochi said suspiciously. "Wano Kuni, there is no such thing." The attendant hesitated for a moment, and said more carefully and with infinite awe. "The hurricane came from that adult's Ghost Island." It turned out to be so. Orochi now believes it, since it came from the Island of Ghosts, not to mention it is a hurricane, even if it is a thunder flame, it is normal. Because there is Kaido's camp for the beasts. "Go and see." Orochi said, "What happened to the Island of Ghosts? Is there anything Kaido needs to help?" Orochi has been able to control Wano Kuni for so many years because of Kaido. Moreover, I heard that Kaido has recently made a big deal for Wano Kuni, so Orochi is extremely flattering to Kaido. The attendant took the command, but his heart was miserable. He really didn't want to go to the terrible Ghost Island, let alone see the terrifying Master Kaido. Over the Island of Ghosts, the atmosphere at this time is a bit weird. Because Dover's seemingly humble Hongxia actually blocked Kaido's thunderous 8 trigrams. Bing's eyes were filled with incredibleness. Impossible. Without a single line, how can you resist Kaido boss's mace? Smoke really can't figure it out. Yamato caught a glimpse of Jin's anomaly, and hurriedly acts, in terms of perception, she is not as good as Kaido's rank first in strength. Baked then told Yamato about the situation. Yamato was dumbfounded after listening. That man actually only used one thread? The admiration of Dover in my heart reached its climax for a while. At the same time, Kaido, who faced Dover in midair, was shocked and unbelievable, even more turbulent. Originally, he was also going to take the opportunity to scare Dover, and future business might be led by him. But I never imagined that not only did Joker practice conquerors to an incredible level, but also his hard power to a level that could block his thunderous 8 trigrams with just one thread. And the next scene changed Kaido's face even more. I saw that the radium hot wire that was stalemate with his mace and exuding the ultimate high temperature, actually slowly and surely, cut into his mace. If this continues, his mace will undoubtedly be cut in half, and his thunderous 8 trigrams are not as simple as being blocked, but cracked and defeated. Thinking of this, even Kaido's eyelids jumped and his face twitched. The power of the radium hotline did not disappoint Dover. The surface of the radium hot wire not only contains the temperature comparable to that of the underground magma, but also has countless small serrations. The cutting force is so strong that even Kaido's thundering 8 trigrams can penetrate it. Just when the radium hotline was going further, cutting into Kaido's mace. Sudden, Kaido retracted his mace, and there was a trace of fear in his eyes. This is the emotion that Kaido will show only when facing strong people of the same level. Kaido's original muscles condensed into a lump on his face, and a heroic laugh suddenly appeared. Joker, your strength has improved a lot. In this way, our business will be even more problem-free. Kaido seems to have forgotten what Dover said just now. It seems to have forgotten that Dover has repeatedly ignored him and even almost ruined his Ghost Island. But this is not difficult to understand, because Kaido's anger and brutality are usually only for those who are obviously weaker than him. Earlier, he thought Dover was just a Shicibukai, so facing Dover's offense, he appeared extremely angry. But now, after a short but extremely dangerous duel with Dover, Kaido already knows that the dark middleman Joker in front of him is no longer the Doflamingo in his mind, but is clearly a powerful existence at the same level as him. In the face of such a strong man, coupled with the fact that the opponent is still the master, Kaido is extremely eager to get something. How can Kaido still fight with him? Kaido's person, although seemingly reckless, is actually quite good at calculating. For Kaido's thoughts, Dover is naturally clear. He gave a sneer in his heart, but on the surface he also closed his momentum and attack. After all, Dover's purpose for Wano Kuni is not really to fight Kaido to death. It is enough to leave an indelible impression on the Kaido pirates and let them see their position clearly. So Dover looked calmly and landed on the island of ghosts with Kaido. The two sides are calm and harmonious, as if the battle that almost broke up just now did not exist at all. On the Ghost Island, because Dover took conquerors, the Kaido group's men gradually woke up. When they saw Dover and Kaido walking side by side, and even the face of Kaido's boss was full of smiles, their hearts were full of horrible waves. They looked at Dover's eyes again, where there was the slightest initial rambling, filled with deep fear and awe. Kaido's subordinates even have a hunch that in this vast sea, the Sea Emperor who is above the billions of pirates, I am afraid that there will be one more Sea Emperor from now on. Dover didn't pay much attention to Kaido's thoughts and the little ones. His gaze only stopped for a while on the 3 plagues. When Dover looked over, even with Quinn, he couldn't help but feel tight, and even felt like he was seen through. As for Jack the Drow, cold sweat was overflowing from his palms. At this time Jack, as long as he remembered the words he had told Joker to teach Joker before, he couldn't help but feel fortunate. Fortunately, I didn't go to it, but at the same time of rejoicing, Jack also felt very angry and unwilling. He is extremely dissatisfied with his performance just now. He is also an arrogant and conceited strong man. Dover didn't know how much shame and unwillingness he had accidentally brought Jack. Dover only noticed that he had a pair of eyes that had been staring at him from the moment he landed on the island of ghosts. Dover followed those eyes and saw a Prajna evil ghost mask. After Dover froze for a while, the corner of his mouth licked evilly. He recognized that it was Kaido's daughter, Yamato. And the reason Dover's mouth evokes is that he knows that this young master Yamato is a filial daughter. Dover didn't know that when Yamato saw the evil smile at the corner of his mouth, his heartbeat accelerated several times. Yamato was originally a woman who worshipped the strong and heroes. Just because she learned about Kozuki Oden's deeds and read Kozuki Oden's logbook, she couldn't admire him, and even claimed to be a man. Just now, after seeing Dover's domineering attitude towards the old man, Yamato has been extremely frustrated with Dover. In the end, he only used a thread to block the old man's thunder 8 trigrams, which made the old man have to let go of his anger and even talk to him. In this way, Yamato's admiration for Dover's peerless demeanor swayed even more. It is also difficult for her to speed up her heartbeat when she sees Dover's evil smile. Kaido and Dover came to the top together. After Kaido and Dover had a bowl of wine, they couldn't bear to ask eagerly. Joker, the smile fruit you said on the phone before, is it true? Please ask for flowers. Kaido is extremely enthusiastic about military power and is eager to build a violent army full of zone abilities. Even Kaido has thought about the name of this legion, that is, the barbarian. But in the sea, devil fruit is so rare and hard to find, even if he is the 4 emperors, he can't get too many. Therefore, Dover is now his only hope. Dover smiled lightly and said calmly. Of course it is true. Vegapunk, the first scientist who belongs to the world government, has studied the pedigree factor many years ago. He was the first to develop the artificial devil fruit. In the original book, the fruit that Momonosuke eats is made by Vegapunk. Kaido's expression condensed. Vegapunk? This is a figure that even the world government attaches great importance to. Once robbed of him, it will be no different from the world government. Before accumulating enough military power, Kaido does not want to quarrel with the world government too stiffly. What's more, he still wants to do seastone business with the world government in exchange for more resources. Dover understands Kaido's scruples. He himself hasn't thought about moving Vegapunk for the time being. His goal is Guy Saw Current and the Institute above Punk Hazard. Dover told Guy that he would also make smiles in the fact that he was in Punk Hazard, and he waited for Kaido's response. This is the purpose of Dover Wano-kuni, using Kaido to block him in front, while he quietly snatches Guy Saw and Punk Hazard. Even if Kaido understands this, he will never refuse, because his eagerness for smile is beyond ordinary people's imagination. Good. Sure enough, Kaido slapped his thigh and said with a grim expression. A mere government research institution, lousy just handled it, how can Marine take lousy? As soon as his voice fell, a sturdy, fierce figure jumped out, making a dull buzzing sound. Boss Kaido, let me go about this. Dover looked at it, but it was Jack the Dro. Jack was extremely unwilling and annoyed by his performance just now, but he didn't have the guts to challenge Dover again. So, when he heard about Punk Hazard, Jack decided to vent his anger on the heads of those Marines. Kaido was naturally overjoyed when Jack, a reckless guy, took the initiative to ask. He discussed the seastone business with Dover again, and Dover agreed to Kaido's middleman to help him trade with the world government. At the same time, because of Smile in exchange, Kaido also agreed to hand over the seastone craft to Dover. Anyway, this seastone craft is actually not Kaido's, but Wano-kuni's. Because of Wano-kuna's closed-door policy, this technology, which is specifically aimed at the capable people, has not been known to outsiders. When things were settled, both parties were overjoyed for a while. Kaido yelled to have a grand banquet to greet Dover. At this time, a young person came to report, Boss Kaido, Orochi sent someone over. Yes? Kaido glanced in disdain. Although he and Dashi are a nominal alliance, but in his eyes, Dashi is nothing more than a pawn for him to build his own military power. In the original book, after uniting with the ant pirates into an alliance, Kaido cuts Orochi off his head without saying a word. But now, Kaido still has a place to use the big snake. Bring him up. An attendant walked in tremblingly. The shape of the ghost island is like a skeleton, and the atmosphere is extremely eerie and terrifying. The servant of the big snake didn't want to come to the ghost island at all. But he didn't dare not listen to General Orochi's order, otherwise he would be killed on the spot. As soon as the attendant came in, he fell to his knees with a splash, and dared to raise his head cautiously after kowtow, looking at Kaido, who was indistinguishable from the devil in his mind. However, the attendant was taken aback for a moment. He saw that there was still a person sitting opposite the demon Kaido. The attendant's eyes widened. Unbelievable, there are still people in this world who can sit on an equal footing with Kaido. You know, even if you are General Orochi, you have to lower Kaido a head. The attendant was even more frightened. He had never been out of Wano-kuni, so he didn't know Dover. But it is unquestionably clear in his heart that the man who can sit opposite Kaido must be a terrifying existence he can't imagine. What's the matter with the snake calling you? Kaido glanced at the big snake attendant who was about to pee, and snorted. The attendant sweated profusely and stammered about the future. It turned out that the snake told him before he left that if Kaido had no needs, he would invite Kaido to have a banquet in his general mansion tonight. In fact, the banquet is just a pretense. Orochi can't wait to know how the seastone business is going. Kaido's eyes rolled. Normally, he doesn't care about the invitation of Orochi at all, but today. Kaido looked at Dover on the opposite side and smiled. Joker, are you interested? Haven't you seen Wanakuna's food, wine, and beauties? The servant of the big snake heard Kaido and asked the other person's opinion, almost suspecting that there was a problem with his ears. Kaido, a beast that has always been cruel, violent, and the only one in the world, when will he still look at the faces of others? The servant of the serpent became more afraid of Dover and couldn't help but even greater than the fear of Kaido. Dover looked indifferent. Orochi? General Wano-kuni? Ha ha, a sneer passed in his heart, and Dover responded to Kaido, it's okay, it doesn't hurt to see it. Kaido was overjoyed immediately, and immediately ordered the attendants to go back quickly, and let the snake hurry up to arrange Wanakuna's most grand banquet. The servant of the big snake hurriedly only agreed, and fled in a piss, but he let out a long sigh of relief in his heart. In front of the two horrors, he almost couldn't even stand firmly. Night is approaching soon. The city of flowers is brightly lit, and the sakura flowers are flying, beautiful. Here, all the prosperity and wealth of Wano-kuni are gathered here. Compared with other poor areas in Wano-kuni, the flower capital is like a paradise. However, the flower city is even more beautiful than before, because it will welcome an unprecedented big man. Illustration. Hey, it's to greet Governor Kaido, right? Governor Kaido is the only one who can greet him so solemnly. HMPH, you guessed wrong this time. I just heard a small piece of news that it is said that not only Governor Kaido is going to have a banquet at the general's mansion tonight, but there is also a more noble adult. The layout here is all for that adult. Ha ha ha. What are you kidding about? How can you believe the gossip? How can there be more noble guests in this world than Governor Kaido? The residents of the Flower City are talking excitedly. Some people say that General Orochi arranged everything for Governor Kaido. But there are also people swearing to pat their chests, and there must be an adult in the general mansion tonight who is more noble than Governor Kaido. For a time, neither of the two sides agreed with each other, and the quarrel was overwhelming. At the same time, in a magnificent sedan chair in the center of Wazidu Street, a beautiful woman also heard these discussions. She wore a red and supple kimono with light yellow sakura flowers dotted on it, which brought out her extremely round and moving figure. Her crimson lips were red without a touch, like a sakura peach. Even in the dark, they would glow brightly. Her skin is white and delicate, and her hair bun is high and topped, and she is covered with gold hairpin ribbons, which shows a compelling nobility and splendor. Her eyelashes are extremely long, and the beautiful eyes hidden in the gaps of the eyelashes are always habitually timid. With her noble dress and beautiful face, it shows a sense of seductiveness. Such a beautiful and charming beauty, even a butcher who only knows to kill, will probably fall under her pomegranate skirt. No wonder the snake, who never lacks beautiful women, is so fascinated by her. Even the gloomy, cruel and ambitious Plague Quinn is secretly obsessed with him. She is Wanakuna's first beauty, Oiran Xiaozi. When Xiaozi heard those comments outside, a hint of doubt flashed across her beautiful eyes. She was invited by Orochi to attend the dinner tonight at the general's mansion. Dashi gave her a message saying that there will be an extremely important guest of 4.6 tonight, so she must not neglect. And Xiaozi knew in her heart that the person the snake said was definitely Kaido. Because of the alliance between Orochi and Kaido, there is no need for such a big show. The person in the general's mansion tonight must be someone Xiaozi doesn't know. But no matter what, that person, I am afraid at least the same level as Kaido's existence. Infinite worry arose in Xiaozi's heart. Her actual identity was Kozuki Oden's daughter, Kozuki Hyori. She has always been hiding in the capital of flowers as an Oiran, just to one day be able to avenge her father with the sword and Kaido. However, today's Flower City, there is a man as terrifying as Kaido. If this person will also hook up with Orochi and Kaido from now on, then her revenge plan will be even more distant in the foreseeable future. The civilian streets of the Flower City are all so gorgeously decorated, and the general's house where the dinner is held is naturally extremely luxurious. The carved column and jade building are magnificent. There are also rare delicacies and fine wines from all over Wano-kuni. In the center of the main hall, there are hundreds of beauties in kimonos dancing with graceful figures. A joyous and enthusiastic sight. He. Kurozumi Orochi made a nasty, piercing smile. He looked at Kaido and the opposite of Kaido, the man who gave him a hint of horror when he saw it at first sight, and said triumphantly, "We Wano-kuna's wine and women are good. There is absolutely no second place in the whole ocean, which can be better than Wano-kuni in this respect." As he said, Da Snake even finished a bowl of wine, and held up the kimono beauty who was leaning on his arms on the left and right sides of the building. Sitting on the head of the big snake, there are two such beauties beside Kaido. Only Dover sat there alone. Although Wano-kuna's women are pretty good, they are either Robin, Monet, Viola, and Baby 5, who have their own unique beauty, or they are Sugar, Vivi, and they are like porcelain dolls. Cute little beauty. Therefore, how can these Wano-kuni women get into Dover's eyes? Dover just drank lightly and didn't even look at Orochi. Kaido was already slightly drunk. Seeing that Dover didn't speak and there was no one to accompany him, he gave Orochi a dissatisfied look. Da Snake's face suddenly became a bit ugly, making a generous face even more ugly. However, although the big snake usually speaks the same thing in the general's mansion and even the whole Wano-kuni, but today's dinner, there is no room for him to be wild. Da Snake already knows that the man who doesn't bother to look at him is the legendary dark middleman Joker. Wano-kuna's future seastone business will all go through his hands to conduct transactions with the world government. Therefore, the serpent did not have the guts to offend Dover, but instead wanted to break his head to please Dover. The snake took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in his heart, and reappeared a cheerful smile on his face, saying, "Mr. Joker, do you look down on these vulgar fans? Ha ha ha, it doesn't matter, we Wano-kuni have more beautiful women." Da Snake said this, involuntarily infatuated in his expression. "That's the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. You guys, go see if Xiao Zi is there yet." Dashi hurriedly assigned an attendant to the door to look around. When she talked about that beautiful woman, Dashi couldn't wait to see her. After a while, the attendant returned. Afterwards, a beautiful woman in kimono with a beautiful, golden hairpin and phoenix, and a slender kimono walked in. She was like a peony, the chief of the flower. As soon as she entered the door, all the other women in the house lost their color. As soon as he saw this woman, Orochi's breathing immediately couldn't help but rush. He forgot Dover for a while, and he couldn't wait to reach out his hand and said eagerly, Come, Xiaozi, come to me." As for the two beautiful women in kimono next to Dashi, he had long been abandoned to one side. "Little girl, I have seen all the adults. It is Kozuki Hyori, whose real name is Kozuki Hyori, who makes the snake soul dream." Xiao Zi's beautiful face at this time, with a hint of soft timidity, seemed to be a little scared when seeing so many people all at once. But it is this fear that can easily arouse men's desire to protect and conquer. Sure enough, as soon as Xiao Zi finished speaking, Da Snake couldn't wait even more, almost standing up to pull Xiao Zi. Xiao Zi looked at the big snake timidly, which made the big snake more and more confused, and she walked towards the big snake with a lot of steps. In fact, Xiao Zi hates the ugly snake in her heart, but in order to get revenge, she can only vacillate with the snake. Fortunately, Xiao Zi, with her own ingenuity and superb acting skills, has not allowed the snake to take advantage of it so far. As Xiao Zi walked towards the snake, the corner of her eye was at the head of the police towards the snake. She first saw Kaido, the beast that made her hate but feared to her bones, and then turned to the other side alongside Kaido, the strange man with a strange temperament. The moment Xiao Zi saw the man, she was slightly startled. Would such a man be a villain connected with Kaido and Orochi? However, the question mark in her heart had just surfaced, and the next moment a scene that made her whole body cold took place. The moment she stayed on Dover, the man turned his head and looked at her. Found it. Xiao Zi couldn't help feeling amazed at the man's keenness. Illustration. Moreover, under the eyes of that man, All of his performances and everything he had desperately hidden seemed to be seen through by those dark and deep eyes, and felt a horror. Xiao Zi's steps were messed up, and she couldn't restrain herself and looked flustered. Under such circumstances, panic is undoubtedly fatal to a spy like her. Sure enough, Da Snake frowned and looked at Xiao Zi suspiciously and asked, "Xiao Zi, why are you panicking?" In the past, facing the suspicion of Orochi, Xiao Zi could easily get the result. But at this moment, under the gaze of that man, Xiao Zi couldn't tell any lies for a while, so much cold sweat oozes from Bai Jie's forehead. At this time, Kaido, who had just drunk too much alcohol, was sober for a while, and then he saw Xiao Zi, who did not know when he arrived, and he landed rough and laughed. "Ha ha ha, Xiao Zi, I heard that you were Wanakuna's Ouran, so you came right. So I came to Joker to accompany the bar, the big snake guy. You can't even find someone to accompany you." However, Kaido said before seeing Dover sitting alone. As soon as the words fell, a strange smell filled the hall. 650 people who can attend this dinner are either Kaido's subordinates or Wanakuna's most respected figures. These people, they all saw General Orochi just now, and couldn't wait to ask Xiao Zi to sit next to him. But the words of Governor Kaido asked Xiao Zi to accompany the mysterious Joker. For a while, the atmosphere on the court was extremely strange. Da Snake's face twitched for a while. He forgot the suspicion he had just made against Xiao Zi, and endless anger rose in his heart. Once Xiao Zi really sat next to that Joker, then his big snake is undoubtedly equivalent to being slapped in public in front of important people in Wano-kuni, a loud and bright light. What prestige does he have when the rumors go out? The serpent looked at Kaido angrily, but Kaido was drunk again at this time. I am afraid he didn't know what he just said. The serpent had no choice but to look at Dover again. When he thought about it, Kaido just said the drunken words. If the Joker understood the rules, he would not take it seriously. However, before the serpent had time to say anything, a faint voice that made the serpent and everyone present suddenly had an endless chill in his heart, and slowly came from Dover's mouth. "I fell in love with this woman. You guys, does anyone have an opinion?" Dover's tone was flat, his dark eyes wide open, and he scanned the audience indifferently. As for those present, no matter it was Kaido's 3 plagues or Wanakuna's big shots, including Orochi, no one dared to look at him. Everyone bowed their heads as far as Dover's eyes were. Kurozumi Orochi's inner anger almost broke through his chest. Under the eyes of everyone, the woman who should have belonged to him was snatched away by a word, which made Da Snake's cheek feel a hot pain. However, the serpent did not have the courage to get angry, and even did not dare to show a trace of dissatisfaction on his face. Although the serpent is cruel and arrogant, he is not a fool. That Joker is not only Wanakuna's future god of wealth, but also the backer Kaido behind him. Da Snake can be sure that if he dares to turn his face with Joker, it is not someone else who teaches him first, it must be Kaido. Having figured this out, even though Da Snake was extremely angry and bored in his heart, his ugly face was grinning. "Mr. Joker, since you are interested in Xiao Zi, that is Xiao Zi's blessing. Xiao Zi, why don't you come to Mr. Joker soon?" Xiao Zi's heart at this moment is full of contradictions and complexity. Just now, it was the look in that man's eyes that made himself so confused that he was almost spotted by the snake. And now, it was the man's words that rescued himself. He said he fell in love with me. Thinking of the faint words that the man just said, the big snake in Qi had to bow his head, even to please him. Xiao Zi's heartbeat could not help speeding up a bit. On the one hand, she was shocked by Dover's dull but mighty, celestial demeanor overlooking sentient beings. On the other hand, it is because of the meaning in that sentence. As the Ouran of Wano-kuni, Xiao Zi has countless people confessing to her every day, and many of them have gone bankrupt in pursuit of her. But for those people, Xiao Zi wouldn't look at them at all, deliberately showing weakness. More of them were just playful, those guys who greet her beauty. However, facing Dover's indifferent words, not knowing whether they were true or false, Xiao Zi felt flustered and heartbroken. With this feeling, Xiao Zi gently bit the crystal clear red lips and walked to Dover. "I have seen adults," Xiao Zi bent her knees and said in a timid voice. Although Xiao Zi couldn't control herself and had a strange affection for Dover, this man was sitting with Kaido and Orochi after all. She didn't know anything about Dover, and she couldn't help but be vigilant in her heart. Dover looked at the stunning Oran in front of him, his eyes deep that Xiao Zi couldn't understand. This woman is Kozuki Oden's daughter, Kozuki Hyori. Dover has no good feelings about Kozuki Oden. Although its strength is powerful, it is too naive and stupid. In the end, it left a prophecy to die, and it has no value at all. According to Dover, with Kozuki Oden's strength, even if he can't beat Kaido, he can still go to his old club Whitebeard to help out. At that time, not only Wano-kuni will be saved, but he and his family will not be destroyed. However, although Dover was dismissive of Kozuki Oden, he was quite interested in his dark child who remained in Wano-kuni. Turning these thoughts in his mind, Dover didn't show any expression on his face. He took a deep look at Xiao Zi, and drank to himself. Xiao Zi couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed and even more annoyed. In the old days, when any man saw himself, let alone flattery, he was at least extremely enthusiastic. But the man in front of you is good, even if you are extremely mysterious and powerful, you don't even want to say a word to yourself. Obviously you just said that you are fancy. Xiao Zi's movement of biting her lower lip became heavier, so that the pearl-like teeth among several sandalwood mouths were revealed, and a pair of beautiful eyes also revealed a little bit of resentment. This is not what Xiao Zi did to others in the past, but the true inner emotions. Seeing Dover as if she couldn't see her grudge, Xiao Zi couldn't help but feel annoyed and unconvinced. Could it be that her charm really couldn't attract the man in front of her at all? Xiao Zi always boasted that there was no man in the world that she couldn't deal with, so she was quite dissatisfied with Dover's ignorance. The next moment, Xiao Zi suddenly rolled her eyes and thought of an idea. That idea is not only in line with his identity as a wino Iran, but not attracting the attention of others, but also to test whether this man really has no feelings about himself. Xiao Zi's bright red lips are cunningly curved. Then, she leaned into Dover's arms as light as a swallow, watching the man's face carefully. Once the man showed a look of boredom, Xiao Zi would immediately withdraw and stand up. But to Xiao Zi's sigh of relief, the man did not show any expression of disgust. HMPH, even if you look like a saint on the surface, it's not that you don't resist such a big beauty like this girl to give her a hug. Xiao Zi thought triumphantly. She even secretly guessed that this man is enjoying it in his heart at this time, right? Thinking of this, Xiao Zi couldn't help being even more proud, and she was annoyed and dissatisfied just now, and also flew away. But having said that, it was the first time she had come into contact with a man so close, there was almost no distance. Xiao Zi's pretty face on both cheeks could not help but two red clouds rose up, and her eyes did not feel moisturized. With her flawless and slender hands, she picked up Dover's wine glass and brought it to the man's mouth, saying gluttonously, "My lord, please drink." Every move indeed fits her identity as a drinker. However, Xiao Zi's careful thoughts could not hide Dof's Dharma vision. Dover felt a little amused at the little girl's temperament like Xiao Zi's anger. He looked at the eyes of the close beauty with a smile. Xiao Zi's action of delivering the wine froze. The moment she saw the man's playful eyes, she understood that her performance just now was completely seen through by this man. Xiao Zi was embarrassed for a while, and even wanted to find a seam to get in. In the eyes of this man, his performance just now was really the same as the woman in the brothel? She felt ashamed, and even more apprehensive. Her autumn eyes, like cut water, were covered with mist in a blink of an eye. Just when Xiao Zi could hardly bear the huge embarrassment in her heart, Dover suddenly lowered his head, drank the wine she had picked up, and said lightly, "Thanks." Although the tone was still so plain, although the expression was still so indifferent, Xiao Zi felt that these two words gave her self-warmth. He saw his embarrassment and helped himself out, right? Xiao Zi couldn't help laughing or crying. It was him who made herself ashamed, and it was him who helped her out. What kind of man is he? Xiao Zi was thinking wildly, but before she knew it, Dover was no longer as fearful and wary as he was at the beginning. Xiao Zi almost subconsciously buried her entire head in Dover's arms. A solid chest made her feel at ease that she had never had in the past 10 years. The man's breath surrounding the tip of her nose, Wang Li's, made her feel extremely good and comfortable. I really want to keep going this way. There was a thought in Xiao Zi's mind that shocked her herself. Xiao Zi didn't know that her intimate behavior with Dover was always seen by a spiteful look. That person is General Wanokuni, Kurozumi Orochi. The lungs of the big snake at this time are almost exploding. That woman, Xiao Zi, is really hateful. To him, she always smiled on the surface, but refused to let him take a step. And now, it was only the first time Xiao Zi met Joker, and she sat in that person's arms. The snake couldn't help trembling all over. He really wanted to ask someone to kill the man and woman here. But he dare not, he has no guts. Even though he is Wanokuna's most noble person, in the eyes of the man who even dared not neglect Kaido, he might be no different from an ant. Kurozumi Orochi can only hold back the monstrous hatred and irritation in his heart. This luxurious dinner that he used to show off earlier in his mouth makes him as difficult as hell at this moment. Not long after the dinner party, Dover walked away with Xiao Zi's soft waist in a kimono. No one around him dared to stop him, let alone ask Xiao Zi's question ignorantly. Because this man who doesn't even dare to neglect Kaido's boss, he has already said about that woman before, and he has already taken a fancy to him, so from now on, no one in Wanokuni will have the courage to come in contact with Xiao Zi again. Even Plague Quinn, who is secretly obsessed with Xiao Zi, knows this truth well. Quinn put a pair of mustaches and sighed. Xiao Zi will belong to that man from now on. But that's fine, it's better than she was ruined by that stupid big snake. Jack the Drow, sitting next to Quinn, didn't listen to what Quinn was saying, and didn't care about a woman like Xiao Zi at all. Jack now puts all his thoughts on Punk Hazard. He is fierce, and he is about to play his prestige as Lord Jack in the Punk Hazard battle, proving that Jack is not a weak person. Das Snake has a pair of green and faint snake eyes, and he has been full of hatred and resentment. Watching Dover and Xiao Zi leave intimately, he bit his teeth and clenched his fists. Live. When Dover and Xiao Zi left completely, the snake couldn't bear it anymore. 650, he roared furiously. Get out, get out, get out of lousy. This big snake was first used to show off. It was known as the only grand banquet in the world, and the summer came to an end. The beautiful women in kimono dancing on the court and the other guests of Wanokuni knew why the snake was so angry. After all, Lord General was robbed of his favorite woman in public, and he dared not express a word or a trace of dissatisfaction. Everyone ran away hurriedly, not wanting to endure the horrible anger of the snake. When in the hall, there were only Orochi, Kaido, and a few cadres under Kaido. The big snake stared at Kaido with his eyes split. Kaido, that Joker is so handsome, don't you care at all? Kaido also opened his slightly drowsy eyes at this time, his expression gloomy, and he didn't seem to be a little bit drunk. He heard the question from the snake and said coldly, "If you are angry, go to him to settle the account, don't come to lousy, Orochi." Das Snake's angry tone stagnated. He had to have the courage and strength to find that man, as he had just done that. He had heard that the man and Kaido had a duel, and he seemed to have the upper hand. With the 10 courage of the big snake, he dare not challenge such a terrifying existence. The big snake is like a deflated ball, desperate, and said, "Then there is no way?" Kaido sneered, but didn't bother to answer Orochi. The purpose of Kaido is to obtain artificial devil fruit smile. As long as he has enough smiles to build a sufficiently powerful military force, then any Joker, any big snake, or a world government will not be put in his eyes. When the snake saw Kaido not speaking, he thought that Kaido had to compromise when facing the man, and he was desperate in his heart. As long as he remembered that Xiao Zi would belong to that man from now on, he would not even be able to see Xiao Zi again, and he felt that a piece of his heart had been severely dug out, painful but helpless. Dover took Xiao Zi all the way, and took her to the gorgeous manor that Dashi, Kaido had prepared for him. Here, it will belong to Dover from now on. Without Dover's order, even Kaido would not dare to come in. Otherwise, it would be a violation of Dover's territory, and no one would dare to bear the consequences. After arriving at the manor, Dover said suddenly, "Are you going to Dressrosa with me? Now that you are my woman, the snake dare not come to you again, you can't get close to him anymore, get information, stay here, it doesn't make any sense." Xiao Zi has been lying in Dover's arms comfortably, and contentedly. At first he heard Dover's words, but did not respond. When she reacted, Xiao Zi was shocked and left Dover's arms abruptly. She trembled and looked at the terrifying man in front of her. Her pretty face looked extremely pale at this time. How do you know?" Dover's words undoubtedly show that he knows Xiao Zi's true identity, beg. The corner of Dover's mouth twitched slightly, revealing a hint of evil. "Before, didn't you want to test me and be uninterested in you? I can tell you clearly that I do have a lot of interest in you, including your real name, origin and purpose. I already know it clearly." Xiao Zijiao's body trembled even more severely. She didn't doubt at all. What this man said was true, and she couldn't hide everything from him. How did he know? Is he really that omniscient god? Xiao Zi was thinking about it, but her body gradually calmed down. Over the years of Oiran's spying career, she drifted between Orochi and countless malicious men, and had already developed a smart brain. She thought of what Dover had just said to take her to Dressrosa, and immediately realized that this man was not trying to expose himself. He shouldn't be the same group as Kaido and the others. After calming down, Xiao Zi felt the other party's big hands full of heat and the temperature rubbing her pretty face. Xiao Zi couldn't help but blush and said, "Master Joker, what do you mean? If you don't want to expose the little girl, why should you take the little girl to your sight?" "Ha ha ha." Dover let out a deep and inexplicable laugh, and said something that shocked and surprised Xiao Zi. "Master, as the daughter of Kozuki Oden, you should be more or less useful to deal with Kaido and Oro in the future. Not only is this man not with Kaido and Orochi, he will also deal with those two in the future." Xiao Zi was surprised and happy, and didn't care at all about Dover's words about using her. She asked eagerly and seemingly incredulous, "Sir, are you serious about what you just said?" Dover looked at the beautiful woman in front of him lightly, and said nothing. Xiao Zi immediately believed Dover's words. This man, there is no need to lie to her. Xiao Zi was immediately ecstatic, and with the help of this terrifying man, in the future, she will avenge Kaido and Da Snake. It is definitely no longer a luxury. For a time, Xiao Zi thought a lot, and she suddenly said to Dover, "Master Joker, I can't leave Wano-kuni. There are many old and loyal subordinates in Wano-kuni. I need to stay and organize them. When you plan to do something with Kaido and Dash in the future, they will definitely be of great help." "Oh?" Dover raised his eyebrows, a little surprised. Looking at the peony-like woman in front of me again, she didn't have the purely identity and beauty that she had before, but she valued her a little. It is quite extraordinary for this woman to be able to stay in the most dangerous place and organize strength even when she is out of danger, and revenge can be expected in the future. Dover also thought of the Fur Clan's Inu Lan and Cat Viper, which was a big help to Xiao Zi. In the end, Dover agreed to Xiao Zi to stay in Wano-kuni. With Xiao Zi as an internal response, it will be extremely beneficial for him to control Wano-kuni in the future. Early morning. When Xiao Zi Yu woke up, she found the man standing in front of the window. Sunshine wine was on the man's body, as if putting a golden coat on him. It looks so luxurious and majestic, as unattainable as a god. However, such a man is, to me. Xiao Zi's lazy eyes flashed a touch of pride. Last night, when he knew that Dover, Kaido and Da Snake were not the same passerby, and that he would even help him get revenge in the future, Xiao Zi's inner feelings were almost unstoppable. Xiao Zi put on a thin coat, came behind the man, stretched out his snow-white lotus arms like jade porcelain, tightly around the man's solid waist, as if to melt herself in. She suddenly regretted it, and she should have promised to go back to Dressrosa with him last night. But even if she doesn't give up, Xiao Zi will not change her mind. Because she knew very well in her heart that if she continued to stay in Wano-kuni and lurking, it was the best choice for a man and herself. Asterisk 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 Dover left, and Xiao Zi has lived in Dover's manor ever since. Therefore, although Dover is no longer there, his name is enough to prevent Xiao Zi from being hurt at all, let alone to please others with false feelings. At the same time, Jack, who was already ready to do a big job, left Wano-kuni and drove aggressively towards Punk Hazard. On the island of ghosts, Kaido did not hide the excitement and madness on his face. Joker, Punk Hazard is already in our bag, your smile must be made as soon as possible. He can't wait to build that violent army full of zone abilities. Yan and Quinn are also full of expectations, although the Joker put a lot of pressure on the two when they were in Wano-kuni. As long as they have the artificial devil fruit, the strength of their Kaido pirate group will skyrocket. A little bit of pressure is nothing at all. At this time, a bright and graceful figure walked in, wearing a Prajna mask, and it was Kaido's daughter, Yamato. When Yamato heard that Dover had already left, he was anxious on the spot. When will I leave? Can I catch up? It turned out that the earth-shattering duel between Dover and Kaido that day made Yamato a great admiration spontaneously, and that admiration even surpassed that of Kozuki Oden. After all, Yamato has only seen some written records of Kozuki Oden, but he has actually seen Dover's magnificent and stalwart style. Yamato immediately ran out. "Old man, I'm leaving. I'm going on an adventure with Lord Joker." The look of turmoil was unwilling to stay for a moment. "What did you say?" Kaido heard this, and the excitement and madness just now disappeared without a trace. He yelled furiously. "You get me back, Yamato!" The moment the roar sounded, the entire Ghost Island was shaking violently. Yamato stumbled and was stopped by Kaido. Kaido was furious, and the muscles all over his body condensed into lumps. "My own daughter, forget Kozuki Oden before, after all, she is just a dead person. Kaido is the least lazy to do as to care about the dead. But now it's different. Yamato actually changed the object of worship to the Joker guy, and he still has to follow Joker, which is really unreasonable. Where can he put his face on lousy?" Seeing that the old man was really angry, Yamato's heart also shrank, knowing that he would never leave Wano-kuni. She stepped back and said, "Then I will go to the place where Master Joker stayed last night." Yamato wants to know more about Lord Joker. If he can't take risks with him, then his residence, of course, is the closest place to Lord Joker. After that, Yamato ignored Kaido and turned his head to the direction of the Flower City. Seeing Yamato give up the idea of chasing Joker, Kaido's anger was finally reduced. But Yamato's admiration for Joker still made Kaido feel indignant, but he was helpless. In the end, Kaido just yelled, "Don't be foolish, if something happens, Lousy will take your skin off." Joker is now the person Kaido can't offend the most. He is afraid that Yamato will do something out of the ordinary accidentally, especially to the Joker's woman. "I know, old man." From far away, Yamato's clear and loud echo came. Dover didn't know that after he left Wano-kuni, there was such a twist on the island of ghosts, not to mention that he had another fangirl like Yamato in the future. Dover is also rushing to Punk Hazard. With Jack the Drow blocking in front, Marine has no reason to suspect him. As for the headaches that Sengoku and Kaido will have after the destruction of Punk Hazard, it is not his business. Ask for flowers a few days later, when Jack finally reached the sea off Punk Hazard, Dover also sneaked into the island quietly. Punk Hazard at this time was still an important research institution of the world government, with 5 or 6 fully equipped research institutes on it. In the original book, Punk Hazard was influenced by Guy Saw Current's evil research, leaving only one intact research institute. Dover intends to move the entire Punk Hazard, together with all the above research institutes, to Sky Island. In this way, compared to the original work with only one sad device, Dover's speed of making smile fruit raw materials will undoubtedly be greatly increased. Coupled with the cultivation of the little human race with all the strength of the whole family, it can be expected that the number of smiles made by Dover will be several times that in the original work. Point 0 This is something Kaido doesn't know. With these thoughts flashing in his mind, Dover scanned the entire punk hazard as he saw and heard. As Monet's intelligence said, the number of seamen equipped on punk hazard was several times more than before. Even Dover was still in the group of Marines and saw a figure that surprised him extremely. That is, Dover's eyes were all focused on that figure. The man was dressed in yellow trousers and looked like a monkey. He is leaning on a tall fur chair, wearing brown sunglasses, his legs up, holding a nail clipper in his hand, manicuring his nails casually, and yawning from time to time, full of an extremely lazy temperament. Marine Admiral, Kizaru. Isn't this person Kizaru, Paluzolino, one of the 3 Admiral and the Flash Fruit ability? Dover's eyes couldn't help becoming playful and deep. Even though Punk Hazard is an important research base of the world government, generally speaking, it is not enough for Marine Admiral to sit here. There is only one reason for Kizaru to be here, and that is the pacifist. Kizaru is the leader of Marine's scientific force, and pacifists have to use his abilities, so Kizaru makes sense in Punk Hazard. Moreover, if nothing else, the pacifist probably will soon succeed. Howl da ha ha. There was a profound smile in Dover's heart. Now that he has known this matter, it is impossible to justify the pacifists who robbed the world government by the way.